Hey, what's up guys? So I'm going to be going over two Yu-Gi-Oh cards right now that I think unquestionably should be banned, especially in the next coming format, which will be in January. So the two cards that I want to talk about are both trap cards, and like I said, I really feel like, everyone will agree with me on this, but I'd love to hear your thoughts below. So, first off, Return from the Different Dimension. This card just steals games. In Dragon Mirror Match, or just, Dragons in general, when they play this card, usually when they flip it up, if you do not have a response for return, you usually end up losing. And even in Dragon Mirror Match, where sometimes the duel can drag out to several turns, if one player opens with this, they can play it as recklessly as they want, and then on top of that, they can just throw up return and then game their opponent. This card in Dragons basically becomes a one card, and the cost is, you pay half your life points, but that doesn't really matter because you can special summon a bunch of huge beaters and usually win that turn. And if you're not going to be special summoning a whole bunch of big beaters to end them, you can usually make a bunch of cards. You can go for a Gaius, you can go for Dracos, you can make a field to where, your opponent can't win anyways. And obviously in Dragons, this card is basically a one card that lets you get out, any two monsters in your extra deck, pretty much. I mean, there are other things that you might not be able to get out with, Return from your extra deck, but basically it really does come down to special summon any two monsters in your extra deck. And like I said, the cost is, not really there because paying half your life points, that is always available. If it said something more like pay 4,000 life points, yeah, I would maybe understand this. But this card in Dragon Mirror Match, it's way too good, and it usually ends up being kind of a bad duel when one player happens to have a return from a different dimension. Next card, I know it just came out, but Sixth Sense, it's been banned in OCG for, years for a reason. This card literally just steals games. You could be in like the worst position, and drawing 6 cards, yeah, you could just come right back into the game. And even though this card, technically, you could argue that it has a downside, but milling cards is not exactly bad in Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously, Dragon Rulers being one of the most popular decks that works in Dragon Rulers. Lightsworn's getting more support. This is going to be great in Lightsworns. There's just so many decks that can really utilize Sixth Sense. This card is just way too good. And I have some screenshots that I want to share with you guys. These are just posted over on the Zodiac Duelist if any of you guys look at that forum. But, this card over here, activated, and he gets a 6 off of it, and, the player in the blue, a little bit angry, and he has every right to be angry. I mean, I would hate losing to Sixth Sense as well. I think that they should just make a format of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where we get to play in traditional setting, and we can go to tournaments with traditional decks, and we can play and watch these crazy cards, be activated. But for the competitive scene of Yu-Gi-Oh! I really don't feel like Sixth Sense is healthy for the game, and it obviously is not a card where, it is interesting to watch someone, sack his way out of. I mean, maybe if it had some cost, maybe if your opponent has maybe 7,000 life points higher than you, you can use it or something like that. That would be, a huge comeback card. Whereas this card, it's just generally just activated, and your opponent gets so much free advantage if they successfully get it off. And even if they don't get to draw 5 or 6 cards, they get to mill, anything from 1 through 4. So that still technically helps them out, especially in, decks, like I mentioned, like Dragon Rose and Boojin. And here's just another screenshot, and man, at this point, it's pretty much game over. I mean, the amount of free advantage you get, and the player in the blue just dips out immediately. And like I said, majority of the time when players leave against Sixth Sense, I mean, they have a right to, pretty much leave. I mean, it's very difficult, especially in Dragon Mirror Match, to come back when your opponent has an additional 6 cards. I mean, look at that hand. He's got cards of consonants, which he can't actually use, but he's got a Sacred Sword, maybe, so maybe he can draw into it. He also happens to have Vanity's Fiend, which basically wins games anyways. He's got some Scarecrow back. See, at this point, the Dragon Ruler player can't really win. The player in the blue really can't come back from this. This is too good of a card, especially since it's going to be in the player in the red's turn. That's my guess. And at that point, he's going to be able to draw an extra card, summon Vanity's Fiend, and, pretty much at that point, that's going to be game over. So, like I said, guys, if you have any, reasons why you think Sixth Sense and Return from the Different Dimension are okay in this game, hey, I would totally love to hear your argument, but for the sake of, all the players, I'm sure we can all come to agreement that Return from the Different Dimension and Sixth Sense are bad for the game, especially in a competitive, format where, we want to, be as competitive as possible, even though Dragons are pretty much like the top tier deck still. It's better to have, less of these sacky cards, especially when, some players are traveling all across the world, all across different states, simply to lose to just one dice roll. It's just very disappointing. But like I said, I hope maybe they'll be, having a traditional format so we can see all these, Yu-Gi-Oh cards that have some crazy effect be activated, yet we can still cater towards the player that would love to have a consistent and, more so fair game. But yeah, like I said, let me know what your thoughts are on these two cards below, but I definitely see them getting hit, in January, but we'll just have to see, because technically this is probably one of the only really good cards that came out of Legendary Collection Joey's World. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Asian Eyes out.